Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. Israeli soldiers have finally started ground raids into southern Lebanon. Israel wants to push Hezbollah, the militant group, north of the Litani River to create a buffer zone in southern Lebanon. Now, southern Lebanon is also likely to see the heaviest fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. The area south of the Litani River covers about 850 square kilometers and it's home to approximately 2 lakh residents. Importantly, 75 of the people of southern Lebanon are Shia Muslims, the community from which Hezbollah draws its strength. The remaining 25% comprise Sunni Muslims, Druze and Christians. So the questions we're asking are, will Israel be able to push Hezbollah beyond the buffer zone north of the Litani River? What happened the last time Israel launched a ground invasion of Lebanon in 2006, also against the Hezbollah? Is this going to be a fight to the finish in 2024? And more importantly, are these ground raids the start of a full-fledged ground invasion of southern Lebanon, or will these just be limited in scope? Joining me to discuss this are Major General V.K. Datta and former journalist and military veteran Major Arunikant Sinha. And in the studio, I have with me my colleague Deepak Badana. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. General Datta, I want to start by asking you this. Make sense of these ground raids into southern Lebanon. What are the Israelis planning to achieve with these incursions? Are these softening up operations? Are these probing operations? Or are they trying to create launch pads for a larger invasion or a larger ground invasion into southern Lebanon?
We had discussed this particular topic yesterday, and we had, in fact, discussed about the action which Israel is going to take now,
right,
after the initial launch of the airstrikes and the decimation of the command, control, and communication of Hezbollah. And if you recollect, my understanding is that Israel is definitely going to create a buffer zone,
right,
to ensure that the safety of the residents of northern Israel is ensured and the people who have been displaced are brought back to their homes.
Right.
Now, keeping that in mind, Israel has already carried out the phase 1 of the operations in Lebanon,
Yes.
which involved the getting the command control elements.
Right.
Now they are doing the ground action where the entire Israeli forces which are required to launch an offensive into Lebanon, southern Lebanon in particular, have concentrated in the north of Israel.
Right.
It's a heavy concentration.
Yes.
There's armor, there are special forces, there are para brigades, and all the elements which are actually carrying out operations in Gaza have been now pulled out, and they are now enmassed on the Lebanese border.
Right.
Now, getting such a large force on the border and just sitting idle does not make a sense.
Right.
Therefore, the ground operations have now commenced. The first probing attacks carried out by the special forces and the paratroopers of the Israeli forces have commenced. Whenever a paratrooper or a paratrooper battalion or an organization is used, it is always used to either capture a defile with a link up in mind. Link up means that the mechanized forces will subsequently come and link up with that force which has already gone in.
Right.
As far as the special forces are concerned, they have gone in to probe and look for any tunnel openings, any place where they're going to have these missile launchers, or where the ammunition emplacement or dumps are there. So these are the pathfinders for the main operation to commence. So this is, I'll say, the phase 1 of the ground operation of the phase 2 of the Israeli overall strategic plan has been launched. And they will now slowly and gradually.
So these are probing operations. Yes. So very important observations there, General Datta. And who else but General Datta, who's served, who's actually been a veteran of the 1971 war. I want to ask General Datta about that war later on. But this is important, that these are probing operations meant to actually assess what the ground is like in southern Lebanon. It's one of the most heavily defended war zone theaters. But Deepak, the interesting thing about Lebanon is that they say, Mark Twain had that saying, history never repeats, but it rhymes. Yeah. But if you look at Lebanon, it's almost history repeating itself. This is exactly what happened in 2006, just 18 years back, when you had Israel going in because some of its soldiers were attacked by Hezbollah. They launched a full-scale ground assault, and that war lasted 34 days before the ceasefire was called.
I would still say that history is kind of rhyming, because this time Israel seems to have both the preparation and the intent to do what it wants to do. You are seeing them going about it in a very structured and very organized manner.
Right.
And I don't anticipate the sort of casualties that the Israelis faced the previous time.
Right. Absolutely. And but talking about 2006, we have with us Major Arunikant Sinha, very interesting background, Kargil veteran, left the army, joined a TV channel and covered the Lebanon war for the TV channel. Major Sinha, welcome to the News9 Plus show. Tell us what the 2006 experience was like for someone like you from both sides. You saw war from the military and then you saw it as a journalist. Describe to us why the 2006 war was such a unusual kind of war, because bear in mind, we were just discussing how Hezbollah is literally a conventional army. It has the kind of equipment that conventional armies use. They have ballistic missiles,
they have
anti-tank missiles,
organization,
and they have a full-fledged military at their. But Major Sinha, without much ado, tell us what 2006 looked like as a journalist.
Right. Sandeep, it was a very different war to start with. The difference over here, of course, is that was almost, immediately. This time around, they're going in almost after an year.
Right.
7th of October is, if I remember correctly. So clearly they had a lot of time to work it out. Actually, they are going by the lessons of the 2006 war. The Vinograd Commission, Eliyahu Vinograd.
Yes. But tell us, Major Sinha, tell us what the lessons of the 2006 war were and how is Israel going to implement them in 2024? Because I heard when I was in Israel last week, they said, listen, Hezbollah is a war that we have been preparing for nearly 2 decades. This is our plan A, and we're going to go after them this time. But tell us what the lessons were from 2006, which they are likely to implement now, almost 2 decades later.
So the Vinograd Commission clearly states that, that it was a serious missed opportunity. That's how it called the Second Lebanon War. Amongst the two things, couple of things which they said, I'll just stick to the point which is relevant over here. They said that the decision to react immediately limited Israel to just 2 options, either a standoff or an all-out invasion. And it wasn't prepared for an all-out invasion. So you see the way they have gone about this, first of all, and it's beautifully orchestrated if you look at it. The decapitation of the leadership didn't start with, with the Haniyeh in July or with, it actually started in May with them going after, and that is pure divinity. I do not know how that panned out, but with Resi, Ibrahim Resi, his death. And all of a sudden, somebody who had been very heavily invested upon and was supposed to take over, that's the word between him and, the current leader's son. Between them, one of them was supposed to be, so what it was being told, was going to be the next supreme leader of Iran. And all of a sudden that leadership is gone. And mind you, he had very good relationship with China, with Russia.
No, important point there, Major Sinha. The fact that, the lessons that Israel learned from the last war in 2006 was not to rush into a war immediately, but to take your time. And that's what they seem to have done this time around. Waited nearly a year, launched these special operations, those surgical strikes, this decapitation operations, and all of that. And now they are ready with the final phase, which General Datta outlined for us, which is the ground assault, phase 1 and phase 2. But Lev Aren joins us from Israel. Lev, welcome to the News9 Plus show. Lev, I was in Israel last week, and I can tell you this, that there were friends of mine who were reservists in the IDF who literally picked up bags and disappeared because they had got their call up to go to the northern front. What's the situation like right now in Israel after the decapitation of Hezbollah and this northern theater that seems to be opening up?
I think the biggest achievement of Israel right now is that Hezbollah does not even know which of its officers is an Israeli agent or a loyal soldier of Hezbollah.
Right.
And once we have achieved this, everything on the ground is a bit easier because on one hand, you see that Israel is not even rushing to the Litani River right now.
Yes.
It takes like 4, 5, 6 kilometers, depends on which front. We brought 98th Division. If it was in India, it would be called the Agni Division. It's like the fire division.
Yes.
Which got a lot of experience in Han Yunis. And the fact that we don't speak too loudly and we let our best units speak on the ground, as well as our intelligence and air force, it is a huge difference.
Yes.
And in a way, the Israelis, we are quite used to the fact that from age 18 to 21, we are in the army.
Yes.
And after this, in 24 hours, they can call us whenever they want the army, and we are more than willing to defend our country. So in a way, this is like part of the psyche of Israel. And as you have witnessed, when the war with Hamas started, 3 lakh Israelis just came back to Israel to be a soldier. So this is like part of us.
Right, very unique military, and of course, what an exceptional fighting spirit that Israeli civilians show, because they're all trained soldiers, and we forget the fact that Israel is a garrison state for reasons that you just have to look into history. They've been literally fighting without a break since 1948. But General Datta, what are the lessons for India from all of this? You know, we've been watching this war unfold for the last year. You've been a member of the Indian military and of course disaster response as well, and before that you've been involved in very interesting agencies, special forces units. What's the distilled essence that India can learn from the Israeli Defense Forces in 2024?
See, the thing is that never let your guard down.
Right.
Prepare for the worst. Keep your powder dry.
Yes.
Because what may happen, and like Israel, India is also facing hostile neighbors all around us. And all the neighbors, and most of them, whether it is Pakistan on the west and China on the north and northeast, are nuclear capable with a large standing army.
Right.
So therefore, India is virtually sitting on a powder keg, and therefore, we as the Indian Army have to be fully prepared for tackling both Pakistan and China, and in addition, anything else within or from any other side.
Right.
So therefore, the lesson learned for India is that you have to be ready 24/7.
Yes.
You cannot start buying equipment when the war is imminent.
Right.
You have to be ready with that bare minimum capability, which is adequate as a deterrent for your largest adversaries, either on the west or in the north and northeast. And therefore, the Army, Air Force and Navy has to be constantly in training, ready for operations.
Yes.
And the intelligence, which is a very big part of the entire game of planning and operation, has to be of the highest quality.
Yes.
You cannot, like India has also been surprised a number of times.
Yes.
Kargil, for example, you know, it was a surprise to us. Pakistanis kept on making a fool that they are the, the militants and the terrorists and the Kashmiris. And now the shameless guys have finally admitted, and even Pervez Musharraf, before he died, is written in his book. But then they are total liars. They are the guys who sell their mothers to tell a lie and remain in power. Right. That is what Pakistan Army is.
Well, that's, and yes, of course. And we are dealing with two very strange, militaries on our border. One's the military of a party, that is the Chinese military, and of course, one is the military that owns a country, which runs a country. But, back to you, Aruni Khan Sinha, Major Sinha, this southern Lebanon is the focus of this entire operation, as we discussed, about 800 square kilometers. As a war correspondent, when you were there in 2006, give us a sense of what it was like there. Again, back to the fact that a very unusual war that was fought by a conventional military against a non-military actor that is trained, equipped, and operates like a conventional army. That's the Hezbollah's military wing. How much of a wake-up call was this for you when you saw these kind of, the ATGMs attacking main battle tanks? The Merkavas were attacked by Hezbollah. You had a warship, an Israeli warship hit by an anti-ship missile fired by the Hezbollah. What kind of, learning did you take back with you when you saw all of this? Describe for us very swiftly.
Well, Sandeep, to start with, there were also a few Indian Navy warships, and we were actually taken in by INS. You remember Operation Sukoon, I think,
yes,
if I'm not wrong, that's what it was called.
This Operation Sukoon, yes. But give us the military side of it, the Israeli Defense Forces side of it.
So we went till Ebdesake. In fact, we had taken a vehicle. It's kind of in the fog of war. People on the border really thought it was really terrible back in Beirut.
Yes.
And people in Beirut said, "Oh, hang on, why are you going there? There are going to be potholes."
Yes.
There were potholes, but the roads were fairly navigable.
Right.
And on of course Lebanon side.
Yes.
And even back then, kudos to the way the Israeli army functions.
Yes.
It was pretty much pinpoint. What they were doing back then was pretty much pinpoint. It was not, and again, we were staying with the UN people. There was an Indian armored corps regiment.
Yes.
No, or was it a mech regiment? It slips my mind. One of the boys were a couple of courses junior to me. We stayed with them. We were able to get an insight on what's going on in the other side. It's pretty much pinpoint, Sandeep. It's
pinpoint, exactly. That's how the Israeli military functions. And Lev, my closing question to you is this. What is the kind of war that we could expect to see based on what we've been reading about the Israeli military sending probing missions, as General Datta just explained, that these could be the opening phase of a war. But, give us your sense as a journalist covering this war in Israel. What appears to be on the horizon next?
Israel in Gaza and in Lebanon is totally opposite. About Gaza and West Bank, we have a big feud, domestic feud, left, right, if it is part of Israel, not part of Israel, etc.
Right.
With Lebanon, we are more united in the sense that no Israeli wants even a square inch of Lebanese territory to be part of Israel.
Right.
The only thing that we want is not to see the Hezbollah soldiers on the other side of the border.
Right.
So right now, and one more thing that we know, in Gaza, they have only 13-kilometer trench with Egypt.
Yes.
Otherwise, they're all surrounded by Israel. It is very, very easy to surround Gaza. Again, relatively easy. While from the, let's say, Bin Jbeil, from the border between Israel and Lebanon up to Tehran or even Shabahar port, it's like 3,000 kilometers. We cannot really occupy Lebanon. We cannot really close the border between Lebanon and Syria or Iraq and so on. So I think that as far as Lebanon is concerned, we have no illusions that we can have big plans. All we want is to have the 1701 achievement from the Second Lebanese War.
Right.
And on this, we have a domestic consensus. And even the fact that we take only 5 kilometers and not much further, it is kind of a picture of the way that we understand the situation in Lebanon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Lev Aaron, for laying that out for us, what we can expect in the next couple of days in Israel's Lebanon war. And thank you very much, General Datta, Major Arunikant Sinha, and of course my colleague Deepak Badana, who continues to remain with me in the studio here. We have been tracking the story of Israel's Lebanon war from the day it began, and we continue to do so in the installments of the show. Indian giant Tata has inked a deal with Morocco's armed forces for locally producing the wheeled armored platform. The WAP, which is an Indian designed and developed amphibious wheeled combat vehicle, can easily navigate through muddy or slushy terrain. It has the capability to withstand mine blasts. This is the first defense manufacturing plant to be set up by an Indian company outside India. But at a time when foreign armed forces are showing their belief in such Indian-made vehicles, why is the Indian military reluctant to induct them? Are these vehicles just too good for India, or is there something else? To discuss these, I have with me my colleague Deepak Badana in the studio, but joining us is Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former DG Infantry, and Rahul Chaudhary, former CEO, Tata Power. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. General Kulkarni,
thank you.
Good for the world, not good enough for the Indian Armed Forces. There seems to be a series of such products which are being exported abroad without the Indian military buying them. Is this slogan of Make in India, Make for the World meant to mean that the Indian Armed Forces will not really buy the stuff that Indian companies make? Break it down for us.
Sandeep, thank you very much. I think you've put everyone in a catch-22 situation now. First and foremost, of course, they've undergone trials.
Right.
They've been a great success even in Ladakh. It isn't that they are not capable of doing so. Definitely are good. It's absolutely indigenous platform, and as you rightly said, a platform which has all the characteristics, and it's amphibious more than anything else. It's capable of even doing chemical, biological, radiological, everything, all of it. It has a modular platform. It can carry troops, about a section plus of troops that it can carry from place A to place B. It's 8-wheel. It has all, though, of course, the deal which is or rather the trials that we conducted, both mobility has the advantage, even if we were to look at the Striker trials which are going on. I don't think Striker has got amphibious capabilities that the Tata vehicle has. And Tata Advanced System in conjunction with BAL, in conjunction with the DRDO, totally indigenous platforms. And I would personally say that we must encourage whatever it might be. Not for a simple, of course, the order may be about a huge order, 530 odd vehicles for the Indian Army. That's perfectly fine. I think we have all of it, but of course, the Striker comes with Javelin. That's something which we have to look into. It comes with a Javelin, anti-tank guided missile, and all of it is a transfer of technology. All of it will be made in India. That's okay. But definitely, Tatas are no less, because even the Moroccan army is a professional army. Let me tell you, a professional army spends about $12 billion on its defense, which is approximately 8.5% of its GDP, and is participating in all the UN operations. So therefore, it's not that it is this thing, very good. And of course, I am told, Sandeep, that they're going to make this vehicle in Casablanca. So it is something like, it is make in Casablanca.
Make in Casablanca.
Made in India.
General Kulkarni, you think there will be a situation where the make in Casablanca vehicles could possibly be, exported to India for use by the Indian military? Could it actually come down to that? I'm asking you this because there, one hears from the private sector, there's a lot of complaints that they have. Look, we make all these hardware, defense hardware, we invest, we create plant, machinery, we invest capital. But finally, when it comes to the orders go to an imported platform, and then we have to, fight for these export orders to small countries in Africa. But, because the Indian military does not buy us. And when the Indian military buys any product, as you well know, Deepak, you've been tracking this sector as well, it's like a 5-star gold class rating for that product. And so, in that situation, General Kulkarni, does it make sense for the Indian military to at least buy small amounts? If you know that a VAP is good, for instance, or you know that a battle rifle is good enough, what prevents the Indian military from buying small, limited quantities of it?
I would go along with Sandeep, we should. And there should be no doubt we should. And not for any other reason. It can be further upgraded if the fire control system doesn't seem to be as desired, or even for that matter, even if you're looking at firepower, the sighting system, or anything of that kind, it can always be upgraded. If it is to come up to the level of Striker, it can always come up. Even the weight part, the weight, because an amphibious vehicle means something lesser than about 24 tons. And obviously, if it's amphibious, it can be done. It can be various versions of it also. Because I remember the Tata Sumo vehicles, they were introduced at one point of time, and they gave it to the army for trials. And the trials, we gave all kinds of suggestions. And of course, the Tata Sumo didn't find its entry into the Indian Army, but it was one of the greatest successes on the Indian market. If you saw, all the cabs and all of these vehicles were all Tata Sumos, because the trials went through the Indian Army, a great success, modified. And similarly, I would go along with you, Sandeep, at least on this issue. We must encourage our people. There is no denying the fact, because it is, after all, if they have to be tried in Ladakh or if they have to be tried in the desert, where the Moroccan armies are going to be using them primarily in the desert and not as high altitude as us. But I think they've been a great success. We should give them a chance and we also take on the strikers. No objections to that. But definitely some of these must be there with us.
Absolutely. And in fact, Rahul Chaudhary just joins us. He was former CEO of Tata Power SED, and in fact, he was one of the prime movers of the wheeled armored personal carrier. Mr. Chaudhary, tell us why it's really important for the Indian military to put its money where its mouth is, especially when it comes to slogans like Atmanirbhar Bharat. General Kulkarni was just mentioning the fact that, yes, there is a case for the Indian military to buy even limited quantities of hardware, that's IDDM hardware especially, to give it a leg up, a boost in the global market.
Military technology and capabilities, if you have not developed it for a particular applications, I mean, it's not a, it's a specifically engineered product, and it requires a context, a doctrine for usage, and it gets refined. How you use it refines it, and therefore the countries which are exporting weapons and systems, except for just shells and armaments, you need to have a proper development cycle and the usage. The problem in India is that we are one of the worst countries to specify equipment. Our equipment specification methodology is cut and paste. It has to be tailored for a requirement. Unfortunately, our systems have not supported it. And when you create, and the second problem we have is, yes, we have requirements from desert to Himalayas.
Multi-terrain requirements, desert,
and
forest,
all multi-terrain requirements put into something as one weapon system, and you want an all singing, all dancing weapon system. Now you will have to make compromises, engineering compromises to get that damn thing done. Now that will not be the most cutting edge and be able to win the war, and also the costs are going to be higher. So it is to first get your. We need to work with the industry to create specific programs and projects. This everything, I mean, from the deserts to the Himalayas, everything has to work everywhere is a problem in itself.
It reminds me of that Hollywood film, Everything, Everywhere, Always, All at Once.
I mean that was that. Yeah, I mean this is not only India. This is a worldwide. If we do not, especially today, when you have to get into precision and you have to, you are now running a 3D kind of a world, not a 2D kind of a world. With the lighter ammunition and everything else, you need to have very, very precise definitions of your doctrines and how you will use your military system.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Chaudhary. Two stalwarts of the Indian military-industrial complex arguing for greater awareness when it comes to Indian design, developed weapon systems. If they are to become competitive across the world, you need to relook at our doctrines and you need to handhold Indian industry, place orders so that that becomes like a 5-star mark of quality across the world. So other countries can then follow suit by buying our indigenous weapons. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening.